Hello, I'm Dave, co-founder of Social Shifters. This is the Social Shifters podcast. In this podcast, we'll be speaking to young people acting on the social and environmental issues that matter to them most. In today's episode, we'll be speaking to Evie, who runs a social enterprise in the north of Scotland called Ullapool Unpacked, which is all about promoting zero waste in local communities. Evie, welcome to Glasgow and welcome to the Social Shifters podcast, where we speak to the young leaders, innovators and entrepreneurs that are taking action on the social environmental issues that matter to them most. Evie is the founder of a social enterprise based in the north of Scotland called Ullapool Unpacked, and today we're going to be speaking about that organisation. We're going to be speaking about Evie's passions and what made her decide to start working in this space in the first place. We're going to be exploring all of the trials and tribulations of social startup, and yeah, we're going to be speaking about the future as well and where you want to take the business now. But yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here. Big city.
in the big smoke.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, look, to give us a little bit of context about you and your organisation and where you're from, can you tell us about Ullapool Unpacked and yeah, what does it do? What's the purpose and what is the kind of issue that you are tackling?
So Ullapool Unpacked is a social enterprise that I set up 5 years ago now. And the whole point of the company is to help the community produce less waste. That can be in all of its forms. But primarily we're looking at single-use plastic waste and food waste at the moment. So the company was set up after I had my daughter. And I was really overwhelmed by the amount of waste that a really small child can produce. And I wanted to do something about it. And that led me on to zero waste shops. And I'd never heard of a zero waste shop before. It's not something you see very much of in the Highlands. There are some, but you have to really search for them. And I just thought, why have we not got one of these here? So I went down this rabbit hole of how do I set one up, or who could set one up in the community. And it became quite clear that if I didn't do it, it wasn't going to happen. So I then, set about trying to make it happen.
And the rest is history.
As they say, yes.
Why is zero waste so important and why aren't there more retailers that are heading in this direction of zero waste? Are there more? Yeah,
I mean, I think there's definitely shifts happening. At the moment, we all know that we're in a climate crisis, that the world really needs, we need to look after it better. And if we want it to be here long term. But I think the biggest issue with people reducing their waste is a mindset shift. It can feel quite difficult and overwhelming when you're trying to do better, but you're not quite sure where to start, because there's so many things that we could all do, but we also have to keep living our lives and doing all the things we need to do on a daily basis. So the point of Ullapool Unpacked is to try and help people on a quite a ground level and implement waste reducing mechanisms in their daily lives, which is why we're focusing on food at the moment.
I think that's an important point maybe to just dive into for a moment, because it can feel overwhelming, I think, for many of us, for many individuals who would really like to be doing more.
Yeah.
But perhaps feel a little overwhelmed with where to begin. There are so many interconnected issues which contribute to global warming. How important a motivating factor was that for you personally to do something about that and to do it at a kind of manageable local level?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I had real climate anxiety. Like, I know people talk about that a lot now, and I think I maybe didn't even know what it was. When I was having my daughter, there was just this sense of, whoa, like, what am I doing?
Bloody hell.
Yeah, this is scary. And and being really overwhelmed and not feeling capable of doing anything about it, or not knowing where to start. And I think a lot of people feel like that when things are too overwhelming. You just self-preserve and you push things back, which is why if you can get things in on a more manageable level, then people can relate to it more, or they're able to put it in a context of what they're already doing. When you live in a really small community, it can be quite difficult to access ways to reduce waste because you are so rurally isolated, like geographically, and your options are more limited. So in Ullapool, we're very close to the sea. We're very aware of the environment. People probably do what they can to care about the environment. Like it's not a place that's full of litter. It's quite clean, and lots of people walk and cycle because it's quite a small area. But we're also very limited with the shopping options. There's only one big shop in Ullapool, and that is where people get their groceries. So you're confined to the options that there are within that shop. Shopping around isn't as easy as it is in a city, because there's less choice. So people just go with what is their routine and what they're used to, and it takes a while to get comfortable with doing something new. We're like that in all different parts of our lives, and I had to do that. It's not that I'm this amazing eco-y person. Like there's still lots of things I could improve on, and things that I want to change, but I'm starting, and it feels less overwhelming the more little things that you do.
So tell us exactly what Ullapool Unpacked does. How did it start? And what does it become? How is it tackling this issue of zero waste and giving people in the local community of Ullapool new eco-friendly options?
So Ullapool Unpacked started, I decided I wanted to open a social enterprise because I've worked for social enterprises before, and I also wanted to set the company up in a way that it could continue without me if I decided to move on. So I went with a CIC, which is a community interest company, and once we had all of that established and I had a very small board of people who were supporting me, I was able to apply for some funding. So I got a pot of £1,500, and that was the very beginning of Ullapool Unpacked, and it allowed me to buy some scales, a few scoop bins and some scoops. And that was it. I had 8 scoop bins and some scales and some scoops. And I sold rice, oats and pasta. And that was about it, these 8 products. And me and my sister, we volunteered all our time, and we went out with the car because I didn't drive at that point. So I was roping people in to drive me around with these boxes of rice. And we just introduced people to the idea of it because people had never seen refill shops before. They'd never done bringing a container with them. So we took it to anywhere that would have us for free, these 8 boxes and our scales. And we asked people to bring their containers, and we just, showed people what refill shopping was all about. And we did that for a good few months. And we started to slowly bring in more jars and more scoop bins and things until the table was getting quite full. And then we were doing a community consultation in January of 2020. And at that point, we were really raring to go. We were thinking, right, we're going to apply for funding to open a full shop. Here we go. And then COVID happened. So we had to rethink because handling people's containers at that time wasn't appropriate. And we had to stop. I wasn't being employed. It was just a voluntary role. Had to be at home, prioritise family and the community. So what we did instead was we collaborated with another local business because the community couldn't get hold of things such as rice and flour and pasta. And they were all things that I knew that I could get hold of. So I weighed everything into paper bags, and then we sold them through that shop, and we did that for a few months. And then after that, we got some funding actually to buy a van, because we decided after COVID that having an outside premises would be quite popular and appropriate for our community and the stage that they were at. But we then couldn't source a van because of Brexit. So we then had to rethink again, and we ended up getting a trailer, a really cute little food trailer. It's all curved. And we then kitted that out, and I think I had about 80 products in the trailer, 80 to 100. And it was stationed in Ullapool, and people would, bring their containers. I would fill into it for them. But it was still in an outside environment at that time. So people were quite comfortable. They were able to have a space if they needed it. And we did that. And then it got to winter time and it was too cold for me to stand in the trailer. So I looked for an indoor premises, and at that point couldn't find permanent premises. So we ended up in the village hall, which is actually a really lovely space to be in. That's where I'm still now. And we have a sort of cupboard, if you like, that just sort of pops open and reveals these hundreds of refill products that people come and buy. That's what it is now.
Yeah, amazing. And so there's lots of little pieces there we could dive into, and I'm interested to really explore some of the challenges that you've faced along the way. I can tell even from that last description that there were various times you've had to adapt and change to goings on in the world, or seasons even. Mm-hmm. But I think before that, I'm interested to sort of just kind of unpack, if you will, this kind of idea of introducing a refillery in a local community and some of the challenges that may have come along with that. Refilleries are becoming a better known concept in cities. Even in cities, they're only in particular areas. I would suggest that refilleries are really only open to people living in particular areas. They're not widely available even in cities yet. So quite novel to take them into a small rural town. So I'm interested in how that was for you, how it was received by the local community. You mentioned community consultation. So how was the community involved in the early stages? But also, what skills did you have, if any, to take into doing this? Were you learning on the job? How did that all come about, and where did you get not just the motivation, but the business acumen skills that you must need to set something up?
I've never described myself as having business acumen.
No,
but thank you.
I don't think I would either.
So I suppose in terms of me and my experience, none, or none that I can think of as being immediately relatable to what I'm now doing. I left school when I was 15. I went to college for a year. I then had my daughter when I was 16. And so I had no formal qualifications apart from 1 year in acting, which wasn't really related to what I was doing, but was a good time. And I had no qualifications. Didn't leave school with any qualifications. But that didn't matter, because what I was doing was about knowing my community, knowing the goals that I had and how that would fit into my community. And that is something I did have experience of. I've worked for social enterprises before, so I suppose I knew a bit about social enterprises, but I'd never done something on this level. I'd never run a business. I'd never been someone that was, serving customers all day and having to act like a business owner. Like, it's still, I feel strange. Like, I feel like an imposter, because who am I to run a business? Like, I don't have the financial setup behind me. I don't have years of training. I'm just doing it because I care. But I also think that's probably why things have gone really well and why it was perceived so well in the community. Because Ullapool's quite a small place. I don't know everyone that lives there, so it can't be that small, but it is in in comparison to where we are now, which is Glasgow, it is very small. And so I suppose there's good points and there's challenges within that in terms of introducing this type of idea into somewhere like that. Good in the fact that people knew who I was, so they didn't feel so intimidated going to somewhere where they didn't know the person that was going to be there, or they didn't know, they didn't have any personal connection to it. So I knew quite a lot of people, so that helped. But it was also a small community where things have been quite the same for quite a while, and introducing this new way of shopping is quite alien. It was welcomed by some, but it was different. And things are always going to take a bit of time when they're different, and that's something that I keep now having to remind myself of, is that I've been doing this refill business for 5 years, but some people have still in my community, never stepped foot in a refill shop. So it is still a new concept and it's still intimidating to people. But more and more people are coming each time, and more people are getting used to the idea of it, and being able to give it a go and feel good about it.
Getting behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so lots of really important messages in there, I think, about determination and perseverance, but also that you can make something from not very much. Yeah,
I mean, Ullapool Unpacked, it started from a young adult sitting on the sofa breastfeeding her child. Like, that's where it came from, just sitting on her own, well, not on her own, with a baby.
That's where all the best ideas
not
come
knowing
from,
what to do. Yeah, having lots of time to think and just wanting to do something. And I think that's a really big point of my journey, if you like, is that you kind of just have to go for it, and that's what I've done. And it's led me to right here, which is amazing. I'm not sure what my plan, if I went back 5 years in time, I'm not sure where it is exactly I want it to be, but I didn't know it was going to be here. But I'm really pleased that it is here.
I think that leads us nicely into the kind of some conversation around, the challenges that you faced and the changes that have taken place really over the last 5 years. So a lot of the businesses and people and projects we speak to have gone through many iterations, things that have worked, things that really haven't worked, but things that have been kind of learned along the way. All kinds of challenges to do with financing, to do with pivoting in direction, finding a customer base. For you,
mm-hmm.
what have been those, or if there was one challenge, but perhaps there are many for you, for Ullapool Unpacked, and for you personally, what have been the really big challenges to overcome in the last 5 years, and what have some of those changes in direction meant for you personally?
I think the biggest challenge has been accepting that things don't go to plan, and that's okay. The company has changed massively, and I've had to adapt to all sorts of things that have been thrown at me, whether that's pandemics or not getting the funding I was hoping to get, or just things happening within my own life. Like, this business is 5 years old, but my child is also now 5 years old. And so that's quite a big developmental shift, both within a business and a child. So trying to juggle everything at the same time and be realistic about what I can give to that and be kind to myself has been, a challenge. But I think it's really nice to think about the fact that this has gone on for 5 years, and there has been massive shifts that have happened within those 5 years. But where we're at now is really amazing, and we wouldn't have got to this point if we hadn't have experienced all of those different shifts within those years, because they've really formed the company. They've really created this energy around what we're doing.
I think I hear a lot of talk around adaptability or resilience and perseverance in kind of startup land. I'm speaking very generally about business startup. What does that mean? I think that's kind of what's of interest to me. What does that mean in practice when you have a business on the line, but also your personal passions and interests on the line, and you're trying to provide for your family, whatever that family looks like for you. And yeah, all of these pivots and changes in direction and concerns about funding, particularly in social or environmentally focused organisations. On the ground, when that is happening, in amongst all of that, how does that look, or how has it looked for you? Because I think we should try and dispel the kind of myth around that it's easy, or that it's simple or straightforward.
It's not easy. It's been a roller coaster of a journey. There's been many points where I've gone, right, that's it, I'm moving on. Like, I've had enough now. I've done a good job, but I'm going to do something else now. But whenever I've said that, there's always been this shift where something, this little light bulb, this little flicker, something has happened and it's gone. And I've just gone, oh, wow, like, this is really exciting and things are happening here and I'm going to go for it, because maybe that's my age, maybe that's just me as a person, I don't know. But if all social enterprises have these struggles, and being resilient is, well, if you don't do that, then quite a lot of the amazing things that are happening with social enterprises wouldn't be here. Because if you just stopped at the first hurdle, then yeah, where would you get to? And yeah, that's something that I remind myself of a lot. It's okay to pause and rethink and then move forward. It's not going to be plain sailing, and that's okay. And I think that it's actually really important that we acknowledge that it's okay, and it's actually quite good for it not to be plain sailing. Like, there's a lot of things that have happened in Ullapool Unpacked's journey that I never would have thought would have happened, but I'm really pleased they've happened, because they have led me on to where I am, and they've made quite a lot of things possible that maybe wouldn't have been possible in the past. Like yeah, the trailer. I had no idea I was going to have a trailer, but although I was standing around in midges and cold, like it opened up so much more, because it was innovative. It was really new. It was quirky. It really raised our profile, and it gave me more experience of doing something else. And it's all just tools that I can put under my belt for, going forward into the future.
So all helpful learning, and some of the difficulties that came your way, the challenges, sent you off in directions, forced you to innovate when you needed to, or to change direction when it was absolutely essential. Yeah,
exactly.
You mentioned, that there have been points where you've thought about packing it in for various reasons. You've also mentioned the importance of kind of self-care and the balancing of personal and professional life. So I'm wondering, in your view, is there also a point where it's also okay to draw the line under a project or a venture, when it is okay to leave it temporarily or permanently and walk away and pursue something else if it's not working or if it's not right for you? I think that is also something that entrepreneurs, whether social, environmental or otherwise, can tend to stick at things too long. Yeah, because we care. We care a lot. And it's really difficult to let go of something that you care so much about. But I was actually in that situation just a couple months ago. I was feeling disheartened. I felt like I'd been banging my head against a brick wall for months. I wasn't getting anywhere with, progressing the business. And I needed to think, well, what's my career going to look like going forward? I need to provide for my family. What is going to be the safest, most secure option? And what's going to bring me the most satisfaction, and what looks like something I could actually progress from here. And
so I was thinking of closing down the business and moving full time with my other job. And I'd sort of made peace with that and gone, it's okay. Like these past few years, I've made massive difference in my community. Like all of that work has really developed me as a person, developed my career prospects. But yeah, maybe it's time to move on now. And I then got some funding, which was one of those light bulb moments where I was like, right, okay, this has changed everything again. Just when I was least expecting it, I got all this funding. So I'm now actually going full time with Ullapool Unpacked and leaving my other job, which is really exciting. But it was a complete U-turn. And I'm not saying that would happen for everyone who's in that situation. Like this was a real, pretty lucky moment. But I think if I had chosen to move on, I still would have been okay with it because I'd put everything in for the last however long I've been doing it. And yeah, you've got to do what's right for you at the end of the day, because if you're the one running the business, then you've got to have that oomph behind you. And if that oomph isn't there, then that's not going to be best serving you or best serving your community. So yeah, I think it is really important to recognise that and be okay with that.
So an emotional roller coaster, I think, is an understatement, really. I mean, there's all kinds of, I guess, turmoil and difficulty that come along with being very vested in an idea and in an organisation, personally and professionally, financially, and having to grip on tightly enough to see through challenging times, but not so tightly that you're so immersed in what you're doing that it becomes overwhelming for you. And that is a real difficult nuance, I think, in amongst social entrepreneurship and social enterprise. To get through it, there's a level of sort of inner strength and resilience, I guess, but speaking personally, I don't know that it would be possible without the people around you and the community around you. How big a part have the people around you, whether it's family, community, friends, been to, you getting through those challenging times?
My community has been everything behind this. Like I've not done this on my own. I'm not the one that's created all this by myself. I have had a really brilliant support from my family, whether that's just being an ear for me to moan at or someone to help look after a child. And then within the community, there's been lots of days where I've been thinking, am I doing the right thing? Is this what the community wants? And then someone comes into our little shop and they tell you how amazing they think it is and how pleased they are and how they're, feeling really valued and like they're making a difference and like they're contributing to a bigger cause, which is exactly the point. And it just sort of gives you that boost that is really difficult to maintain on your own. You need people to bounce ideas off of and to, really pull that energy in. And then I'd say I've had a really great support network from some other organisations as well, like speaking to other social entrepreneurs or to support agencies that help social entrepreneurs. Those have been really invaluable as well.
Yeah, it's a really good message there for people who are maybe at an earlier stage, just the importance of community, whatever community means to you, but people around you to be sounding boards, be emotional support, to be encouraging, or perhaps to challenge you when you need it.
Yeah, I've had a lot of particularly my family going, whoa, hold on, are you sure about this? Like, just slow your roll a bit, because I can get really excited about things and just go full on, right, I'm doing this, that's what I'm doing. which is brilliant. But you also do have to just step back for a minute and go, right, okay, let's think about all the different aspects here. So my family have been really helpful in doing that. And yeah, it is quite important.
And so that's maybe a good point to ask you, if you could go back in time and speak to your former self, so pre-startup or certainly in those early stages, is there anything that you would tell yourself, any advice or guidance that you might offer to your slightly younger self at that point in the journey, having been through the ups and downs and the roller coaster of the last 5 years?
Yeah, it'd be really helpful if you could do that, wouldn't it?
It would.
I think there's a few things. I would like to have told myself to allow myself to be more confident in what I was doing. Like, you know, yeah, maybe I didn't have the experience, but I had the drive. So really build on that. And to accept help when it's offered. Or ask for help if it's not offered, if you need some help. I'm not very good at doing that. And I think that's something I would have liked to focus on a bit more. And to just roll with it, like to accept that things are going to change, that there's going to be opportunities that come your way that you weren't expecting, and to, grab it, like just go for it. I think if I'd had a bit more confidence and had someone telling me, just go for it, then who knows? Maybe I'd be sitting here sooner. I don't know.
Yeah, all really good advice. I want to now focus a little bit on the future and what's coming next for you and for Ullapool Unpacked, where you see this all going in the future. And do you have any kind of long-term vision for the business in terms of scale or in terms of diversifying in within the local community of Ullapool? Or are you happy to see where the road takes you, as you've just kind of mentioned?
Yeah, probably a bit both. I mean, I have grand visions and grand plans, but all with that caveat of, but it could change and we'll see what happens. But what I'd like to happen, and what the plan is over the next few months, if everything pans out, is to open a full community refill shop and climate hub in Ullapool. So a big premises selling basically everything you'd find in a normal supermarket, but without the throwaway plastic packaging. So it would be a shop set up for the community with things the community want to buy, which, would be amazing, and something that's really needed in such a small community. And then the hub aspect of it, I'd really like to not have the food be the focus anymore, it just sort of running itself and being ticking along, and then having workshops and events and more of a social aspect coming into it, so that we can use the idea of refilling as a catalyst for people to feel like they're starting on their sustainability journey, and then be able to start thinking about other aspects of their life. So, workshops about sewing and mending, about food preservation, all these types of things are things that I'd like to be able to do within this space. And then what I'd also really like to see further in the future is this hub of activity creating ripple effects out into not just our community, but beyond. I'd like to see all the local coffee shops not using disposables anymore. I'd like to see everyone just taking a cup with them and that being the norm. I'd like to see it feed out a bit more. And what that'll look like at the moment, don't know. But that's what I'm envisaging.
That sounds like an incredible vision. So an all singing, all dancing community hub.
Just everything.
All focused around sustainability and sustainable living.
Yeah, sustainability and how that links in to everything else. Because sustainability, when you're doing a sustainable project like we are, it never just has those benefits there's always going to be benefits in terms of bringing people together, improving well-being, reducing isolation, all of these things. There's always these greater impacts. So I'd like to, for all of that to be seen as well.
Amazing. Just to finish up, Evie, just on the issue of zero waste and sustainability, for people like me and many others who would like to be doing more to help the cause, but sometimes don't know where to start and are a bit overwhelmed with all of the small things that we can be doing. Have you got any wise words for where we might begin?
I would start to think about the things you can do, not the things you can't do, because there's lots of things we can't do. But even just one thing that you can do, if you picked one thing each day that you were going to do, or each week, like, when you go for a coffee, take a cup with you. And if that's the one change that you make, but you then have it as a lasting change, so don't just do it once, decide that's what you're going to do, then that will create change. And the more you change little things, the easier it is to change more things within your life. But also, don't beat yourself up about it. Like, if you forget your cup, it's not the end of the world, like right now. Okay, there might be other changes you can make in the future, and you can reflect on that and use it to learn for the future. But just being realistic about what you can do, because focusing on what you can't do, it doesn't get you anywhere.
So would your message to the cynics or to the defeatists, maybe in all of us, be that many small things over time as a collective can make a difference? Yeah, definitely. And it inspires other people to do the same. It's that ripple effect. If we all just start, then hopefully things will change and they'll get much better and we'll feel better about it. And Evie, thank you so much for joining me in Glasgow today on the Social Shifters podcast. It's been a delight to speak with you about your business, Ullapool Unpacked, and really wish you all the very best with it in future. And I hope you might come back maybe in another few years' time and tell us about where you've got to with this incredible community hub vision that you have. Yeah, thank you. That would be quite exciting. Yeah, we'll see.
If you want to learn more about Social Shifters and how we can help you to impact the social or environmental issues that matter to you most, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find us on Instagram and Spotify.